So this evening I'm gonna try and keep to time, and I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about a life on purpose right now. And people would often say to me, "So, well, life on purpose, Geoff, what does that mean?" And what it means for me is trying to live my life according to a sense of purpose. And then they say, "Well, what is your purpose?" And I say, it's very, very clear to me. I have a very simple purpose in life, and that is to ensure that everybody in every workplace around the world feels that they genuinely have the choice to put their hand up and ask for help if they're suffering from depression, anxiety, bipolar. I just want everybody in every workplace, whether that's the army, whether that's the NHS, whether that's the prison services, whether that's a financial services business, whether that's a consumer goods business, whether that's a law firm, whether that's in India, whether that's in Singapore, whether that's in Brazil. I just want everybody to feel they genuinely have the choice to put their hand up and ask for help. Because you know, if we are suffering from a physical illness, we know we genuinely have that choice. Why in the 21st century we've put men and women on the moon, can we still not talk about our mental health? Because we're all mental and we're all physical. And that sense of purpose comes from my own story. My own story started back midnight on the 25th of January 2008. I'll never forget the night, because the 26th of January is my daughter's 13th birthday in 2008. So you can imagine the excitement in the room or in the house on the evening of the 25th of January. Here's this young girl who's going to go through a rite of passage and become a teenager on the 26th. And so I never ever will forget the date. And at midnight, I wake up with a panic attack. Now, I had never, ever experienced a panic attack in all my life. And at that stage, I'd been married for 20 years, I'd been traveling the world, working for Unilever, I'd been riding my bicycle, I'd been doing this, I'd been doing that, I'm hardly at home, and I bumped Debbie, my wife, in bed, and I said, "Deb, I think I'm about to have a heart attack." And after being married to me for 20 years, she turns over and says, "Have it." No, she didn't say have it. But I said, "Deb, I'm about to have a heart attack." And she said, "Why?" And I told her, I said, "My heart's beating, I can hardly breathe, my levels of anxiety are going through the roof, I'm sure I'm going to have a heart attack. You've got any aches in your chest, you've got aches in your arm." "No, I haven't." "Or maybe you're not, but what you should do, maybe just get up, walk around the room, take a deep breath." So I get up, I walk around the room, take some deep breaths, and slowly the levels of anxiety begin to subside. I get back into bed that night. This is about now 1 o'clock in the morning, and I just can't go back to sleep. Because all I can do is ruminate and catastrophize. Ruminate and catastrophize. Ruminate and catastrophize. About 3:30 that morning, I get up and I look. I go into the bathroom, there's a mirror, got a sore on the inside of my mouth. I look at the sore, I wake Debbie up and I say, "Debbie, come have a look at this. I've got the beginnings of throat cancer." The next morning, Jennifer comes bumbling into the room. I'm now 13. There's a real tradition in our family that there are presents at the end of the bed. We sit around the end of the bed and we open the presents, and all I can say to Debbie is, "Get her out of here." I cannot face her. I cannot face any excitement, enthusiasm, nothing. All I want to do is take a duvet, pull it over my head, and just dig a hole and stay in bed. 10 o'clock that day, I'm eventually persuaded by Debbie to go down to the doctor. I go to the doctor. He asks me a number of questions. Doesn't take a stethoscope out, doesn't take a thermometer out, doesn't look down my throat, doesn't look in my ears. Just asks me these weird questions around my appetite, my energy, my ability to read, concentrate, my confidence levels. And I give a negative to everything, and he turns to me and he says, "You are suffering from anxiety-fueled depression. Now, my understanding of the word depression up until that point was very simple. Waiting until the end of the season and thinking that Arsenal's going to win the league and being disappointed every single year and turning to Debbie and saying, I'm depressed about this bloody Arsenal side. You know, we're going to a game of rugby at Twickenham and England beat South Africa yet again. And then I have to get on a train with some of my English mates and they have to explain to me how to play rugby from Twickenham all the way to Clapham and then down to Horsley. And listening to that and getting home and saying, I feel so depressed listening to the English telling me how to play rugby. Or waking up on a Saturday morning and it's pouring with rain and I turn to Debbie and say, I'm depressed because it's raining outside, I can't go for a ride on my bike. Or somebody says to me when I first arrived, there's a thing called SAD in this country, seasonal affects disorder. And I say, what? The weather influence your mood? What a load of crap. That was my understanding of depression and anxiety. Anyway, over a period of 3 months I get myself better through a combination of medication, cognitive behavioral therapy, slowly getting back onto my bicycle. But when I leave the doctor's rooms that day, I make a decision that saves my life. And I wouldn't be doing all the work that I'm doing today had it not been for that decision. What do you think it was? And it saved my life. I wouldn't be doing this today, I wouldn't be here tonight if it wasn't for that decision.
So, just want to talk about it and speak about it to people you know, like and trust.
So the decision I made that day when I walked out of the doctor's rooms is that I would not be burdened by the stigma that is associated with depression and anxiety. I refused to be burdened by that stigma. That allowed me to talk. What did I get in return that kept me alive? Because there were days, and some of you will know it, when you suffer from depression and they give you some medication, it takes 8 weeks, 6 weeks for the medication to kick in. So during that time, well, it might not work and you have to try another cocktail. And during that time, you have the darkest of darkest days. And there were many days when I kind of thought, there's a very fast train that goes through Horsley at 7:02 in the morning. What kept me alive? Because I spoke about my illness. What do you think it was that kept me alive? What did I get in return?
Hope, support.
I got more than support. I got more than hope.
Compassion.
I got more than compassion. Beg your pardon?
Love.
Thank you. I know we don't use that term much in business, and there are probably some business leaders here today. But I tell you what I got in return was I realized how much I was loved. And you know, during those dark days, I kind of thought to myself, I can't do it because I'm loved so much by so many people. And it kept me alive. 2010, I have a bit of a relapse. 2012, I'm walking home from work one evening, my telephone goes, my wife on the end of the phone, as I'm walking over Blackfriars Bridge from Unilever House in Blackfriars to Waterloo. The phone goes, steady on the end of the phone, she says, I've got terrible news. I said, what? She said, I've got terrible news. My first question to her is, are the girls okay? Because I've got 2 daughters. She says, no, the girls are fine. But your friend is dead. And here was a guy who brought so much light to so many people's lives. You know, the darker the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. Ruby Wax, Stephen Fry, Robin Williams. Think of all those people that are out there bringing so much light to people's lives. The darker the shadow. And he was like that. He was the most gregarious, fun-loving, energetic, lovable individual, and now he was dead. And he'd left a 15-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 9-year-old. And I lay in bed that night, and I came to a very simple conclusion. And the conclusion that I came to that night was that stigma has just killed my friend.
Was it suicide?
Yes, it was. So there were 12, I don't know if you remember, back in October 2012, there were 6 guys who jumped off buildings in the city. Bankers. He was one of them. And I lay in bed that night and I thought to myself, stigma has just killed my friend. I have to do something about that. That's not fair. Because had he been suffering from a physical illness, he would have asked for help and he would have got better. And just imagine if there was no stigma around mental ill health. Imagine. He might have just been able to put his hand up, get the help and the support he needed, and he might just still be here today. And so that night I wrote to Alistair Campbell, because he was doing some amazing work around the space. By the way, the email was not nelson.mandela@gmail.com to Alistair Campbell. It was jeff.mcdonald@btinternet.com. Who knows Geoff McDonald? And he responds within 10 minutes. A week later, we meet up in Belsize Park, and ever since that day, he begins to open all sorts of doors for me to go out, advocate, and campaign to begin to create a world, a workplace where people feel they genuinely have a choice. And so that's part of why I'm so passionate about the work that I'm doing today. I don't think we should lose another life because somebody feels they cannot talk about it and get the support and feel the love that I felt. So what could we do about this? What can we, because after doing some of the campaigning work, I then led a piece of work in Unilever, which was all around breaking the stigma. And there are just three things that I want to leave you with in terms of, because I have a little saying, there's no point in me going out and advocating and campaigning to break the stigma, but then not telling people what to do. But there's also no point in me telling you what to do if there's still a stigma. So we've got to break the stigma and then tell people what to do. And I want to leave you with just three thoughts in terms of what you could be doing in your organizations, in the places that you lead, to address the stigma and normalize mental health. The first thing is that for some of you, you'll work in organizations that haven't yet got to the point of doing things because it's just the right thing to do. So for those unfortunate people in those sorts of organizations where they need a business case, then you'll have to create the business case. And you'll have to have the data, and you'll be able to have to show that the data is costing that business money, and you'll have to make the case. But there are other organizations out there that are so lovely, they are so human, they are so caring, that this is just the right thing to do. They're not interested in a business case, because this is just the right thing to be doing. But leadership commitment and engagement will be absolutely critical. The second thing that you should think about doing, and Nick has spoken about it, is investing in upskilling and enhancing the literacy of every single employee around mental health. So I say, we have spent and invested millions and millions, in fact it's billions, in health and safety. Guess what? It's all gone into safety. The time is for us to contribute and invest in the health, particularly the mental health of our people. And so we can invest, we can shift cultures around safety, we can do the same around mental health in an organization. So investing in training. The third thing that I would say is so important. For me, it's about how do we shift the narrative around mental health? Just think about the narrative around mental health. So if I say to you, go into a Nike store, go into an Adidas store, go into a Reebok store, what do you see plastered all over the walls in those stores? No, plastered.
People enjoying life.
What you see plastered all over the walls in any of those stores is what I call, I'm looking for one.
Brands.
Stand up. You see chiseled whippets.
Not so much laughing.
What you see are chiseled whippets all over the walls. Beautiful bodies.
All happy.
Happy, perspiring, rippled muscles, and you look at that and you feel inspired to go and do something about it, and you buy a pair of running shoes. When it comes to mental health, what are the images that we see? The images we see are so negative. They are so negative. Geoff McDonald with his hands in his head, some black and white photograph, some mental asylum. There is nothing inspirational and aspirational about looking after my mental health. So how in your organization can you shift the narrative? Get rid of the word resilience and talk about people having energy, being more energized, rather than becoming resilient and toughen them up and beat them even harder and they'll jump off of the challenge because you're strong or you're weak. We're not strong or weak, we're just human beings. Shit happens to us, like it happened to me. And so shifting the narrative, I think, becomes so important. And then finally, it's like we spent hundreds of thousands of building gyms, getting people special discounts at Nuffield or having the right nutrition or whatever the case might be, how do we introduce practices into the organisation that help people to maintain and enhance their mental health? So hopefully what you got from me this evening are just two things. One, you've got a sense of why am I so passionate about giving people this choice? And secondly, hopefully what I've left you with is just a couple of nuggets on what is it that you could lead for. And maybe you don't lead. What is it that you could influence? And what are some of those things that you could do? Could you start with yourself by telling your story? Because the most powerful lever of breaking the story in the organization that I worked for when we did this work was when senior, influential people told their stories. And every story that we tell, and by the way, you don't have to have a story like mine, crucible moment, but you might have a daughter, you might have a son, you might have a father, you might have a brother who has been impacted by mental ill health. And every time you tell that story, it's like a lifeboat being sent out into the ocean where somebody who is suffering in silence grabs onto that lifeboat and says, okay, maybe I'm normal.